Well, I must say that polygamous relationships are problematic relationships, and who would have guessed?
Yeah.
Perhaps. I guess that's the question. Anyway, let's look at the first tweet. It says here by Unlimited Els, Melina, the wife of American live streamer and political commentator known as Destiny, who both share an open relationship, has reportedly run away with a man in Sweden.
A twink in Sweden, by the looks of it as well.
Yes.
So that's a twink, not the twink that she ran away with.
Anyway, we have this...
it looks like a Discord.
Yeah. Destiny was saying basically that he is a bit pissed off with Melina. He says, I'll have a small conversation when I'm back about things. I'm not going to nuke Melina or anything. But the last 2 months have been a massive mind F for me, watching her become obsessed with a toxic, abusive guy. Anyway, he is a guy who basically threatened her that if she doesn't divorce Destiny, he is going to kill himself. And for some reason, allegedly, she went with this guy. Let us watch this clip.
This way.
I have socks on.
Why does this girl take my place? Who's this girl? Who's this girl? Who's this girl? Who is she? It's Tima. It's Tima.
There's intense interrogation about the likes of her.
Oh, gentil.
Oh
no, don't steal that from me. Don't steal Tima glued to your lap.
Isn't this how...
What am I looking at? Sorry.
I don't know.
She's got very unique taste in men.
I don't know, but honestly, what the hell? Let us look at this also, the next clip. Yeah.
Hi, what's your name?
Melina.
Can you get me laid?
Yeah.
When?
Today.
With?
Your mom.
I don't want that. Wait, who's my mom?
Me.
Yeah!
You know, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
That was a horrible, cringy exchange. What's XQC doing in the corner as well?
I don't know. It was...
Why is he there?
Just any video you play at this point.
Yeah.
Excuse me, it's just like react.
Yeah.
Reaction
Okay,
time.
let's move to the next one. Anyway, we'll get there in a bit. Because let me see also. There was another clip. Yeah. Says bombshell, Destiny has revealed that him and Melina are done. He claims she's head over heels for a jobless dude who is allegedly abusive. He claims that she was the last toxic holdover from his past self and that she always gravitated towards guys who shat on him. Basically, I don't know. What do you make of this?
So let me get
just look
let me
at
get this actually straight.
look at the video. There's something I don't buy here.
Wait, so who claims that she was last toxic holdover from his past
Hang
self?
on.
Was it Destiny?
The people are not going to know what the hell's going on. So,
Yeah.
So Destiny had this lady. He had an open relationship with her in which she would go off and meet guys, and he was meant to go off and meet girls. And then she's finally decided that she got with this guy in Sweden. That guy is really abusive and is like, if you don't break up with Destiny, I'm going to kill myself. So is it the truth, or is it just a rumor that now she has broken up with him and now she's going to go live with this lunatic?
People say that it's real. I just don't believe it. I don't know. I just look at Melina and that guy. They just don't fit together. Something's not right here.
I mean, I don't think any of this is right.
Yeah.
To be honest, the whole concept I found bad.
Yeah.
But that's my view.
So the issue, and why we're doing this, because Callum, our first collaboration was on the 23rd of December last year.
Is it almost our anniversary? 10 more days.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you two have stayed exclusive.
You can look at this. I mean, there are other co-hosts. I mean,
Whoa.
we've presented together.
This is news to
He's
me.
not supposed to know, Cam.
Sorry to interrupt the video, but I thought I'd announce that we have a new line of merch. This is our aesthetics collection. So I was thinking that in the face of AI art debasing the very concept of art, actually we'd do something quite positive. So we commissioned a series of paintings that were actually really beautiful and could be something that we could present outside of politics. So for example, we have this magnificent painting of a ship weathering a storm, which I thought was just really nice. And we have, of course, a glorious, sort of surrealist, giant white tiger drinking from a lake. But also there are other things that are just kind of interesting, such as the chap lost in cyberspace, or something that I thought might, in time for Christmas, make a great present to your mum or something like that. a beautiful cat lounging on some clouds. Basically, we wanted to do some stuff that wasn't just political, so things that were just nice and beautiful and interesting, because that's also a part of the world we want to curate. So you can go over to shop.lotuses.com. Buying the merch is a really great way of supporting us and means that we can live past demonetization. And I'm sure they make great gifts for the folks as well.
Anyway, so basically, we did this. That was a segment. John told me that this segment aged like fine wine. I don't know, maybe that was a bit. It's a bit.
So I remember, but this was her. She went on, what was it, Fresh and Fit with him or whatever. And they were talking about how everything's fine and trust me, the relationship's fine and we're totally secure. Nothing could go wrong. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. And now it's gone wrong. That's the news, basically.
I think the funny thing as well is that they actively went out there to broadcast their relationship. If you're in some kind of weird relationship in your private life, that's one thing, but then it's going out and talking about it very publicly, making everybody know that that's what you're doing, letting them know as well that by doing it, you're actively better than them because it means that I'm more stable, I'm more secure in myself and my masculinity. Because I don't mind if my missus is going out and banging other dudes. That's very strange.
Weird. And
that's very strange. And then bragging about it. And then everybody turns around and says, this is going to blow up in your face. And then getting into debates on it. The whole thing is a PR disaster. And for years now, since this has been going on, people have been trying to debate him on this. And he just completely ignores it and dismisses all of the concerns that people have. But the fact of the matter is, if you're broadcasting a relationship that leads everybody to question it and you spend half of your time justifying your relationship, that's a very strange position to find yourself in.
Anyway, so what happened in that segment was that I was reading an article from Health Day last year, December 19, 2022, where it said several things, key takeaways. Many folks who are in relationships that aren't monogamous face stigma for their choices, scientists report. Even though 1 in 5 Americans has tried such a relationship, that may be a bit, that sounds
too high.
Too high.
20%?
Well,
Americans are strange.
40% say they have been judged negatively or threatened, and that can lead to low self-esteem and discrimination, say experts who have studied the issue for years. So basically, the main argument I was making on that segment was that this seems to me like a projection. Why? Because there are all sorts of things that can be bad in open relationships and that are psychologically harmful for people who partake in them. And the main bulk of why they may feel low self-esteem and discrimination or things like that has to do with them being in an open relationship, not with people reacting and justifiably feeling weird about it. Because let's say if someone comes and tells you, well, hello, I'm interested into open relationships, the first thing you're going to think is, well, this guy may want to sleep with my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's understandable to be on the defensive about that because most normal people don't want.
I love my wife.
Yeah. I don't want my wife having sex with other men. Thank you.
And
that's a great point though, because if you're interacting with just normal couples, like you don't think that, you think no, they're happy, we're happy.
Yes, and I mean, even if it's even more subtle than that. It's not. It doesn't have to be overt. And someone says, "Hey, I'm interested in potentially sleeping with your wife." It's more subtle because
my name's Keith. Good to meet you. Now go away.
What have you done to feel good about it? You should feel good about it. You shouldn't feel jealous. That's the whole idea. And that's the argument that I think that is constantly being hammered from that side, that allegedly, and it ties to what you said before, that the worst thing that you can feel is jealousy, because if you're jealous, you're insecure. If you're insecure, you're not a man. Therefore, just let your wife sleep with other people. That's nonsense.
There are things that it's perfectly normal to be jealous of.
Exactly.
Real men have no boundaries. Yeah. It's just not true.
No, real men set boundaries. That's one of the...
And are explicit about them.
That's one of the things that we do.
And that's an interesting thing because boundaries have to do with limits you set on relationships. You say that there are some things you do, some things you don't do. So if you have an open relationship and there is no sense of commitment there, or at least a substantial degree of commitment, then you don't have a relationship. You may occasionally fornicate to something, but that's not a relationship. Okay? There has to be a commitment element, dimension into a relationship, especially when it is supposed to be a meaningful one. Because a lot of the people on the polygamy side, they say that they are in favor of meaningful relationship.
I'll say something. I have met people in the past who have been in polyamorous relationships, and every single time it has blown up in their face, and they've been telling me the whole time, no, it works great. We're engaged, even. We're going to get married, but we're going to keep it open once it's married. And I've asked them, what's the point of getting married then if you're not completely exclusive to one another?
Woman moment.
And they well, it was a woman. And she said, oh, you just don't understand. It's perfectly fine the way it works. And then they end up breaking up with one another because one feels that the other is cheating, because they have to set these really explicit rules down to the very minute details to make sure that you don't get jealous. Because if you have organized your relationship in such a way that the main target of every interaction is you have to set ground rules on how not to be jealous of the other person sleeping with somebody else, that's a recipe for disaster. And somebody always messes up one of the rules. And then they go, you cheated on me. No, I didn't cheat on you. This is the whole point, where you get to sleep with other people. Yeah, but you have to do it this particular way, and it blows up and everybody's unhappy. The other ways I've seen it go down is that oftentimes it's a guy who is with a girl, not saying that this has anything to do with this situation, but is with a girl who is obviously out of his league. He's hitting above his weight. But the only way that she is going to stay committed to him is if he lets her sleep with other guys, which means that you are not somebody that she respects. You are not somebody that she truly cares about. You are a guy who she goes back to for consistent resources, essentially.
So the other thing I said in the segment there was that, for instance, sorry, let me see here. What's going on here? Yeah. The other bit was that I showed some clips of Melina where she was saying basically that she has only done open relationships and that Destiny is her main partner because it's convenient, and that usually it's too tiresome and energy consuming to have multiple partners. That's why they stick together for most of the time.
So
and basically,
men don't hear that and say, wow, I'm going to put a ring on that.
No, of course not. That shouldn't be the case, Harry. And we agree. But let me just say that, some people would disagree for some reason, and I don't know why, but let us try to talk. Is that what I said was that it's a bit disrespectful to your partner to be in an interview and talk to people. It doesn't have to be public. You could talk to other people in front of it and say that, well, we're mostly together because it's convenient. It's too energy consuming to be with other people. So I mostly stay with you. So what I thought it was that this is a kind of concealed way of her blackmailing him.
It sounds like an insult.
It was an insult. I think it was an insult. Anyway, so he took issue with our segment and he had several responses. Let us look. And he put me in double speed.
Ultimate.
He watched everything.
There's a reason why I speak slowly. I can speak fast. There's a reason I speak slowly. Anyway. And I found Destiny and Melina. And I want us to look at how Melina talks about their relationship. And I want to see your reaction. Let us.
One interesting aspect of your relationship is you're in an open relationship. What's that like? From a game theoretic simulation perspective, what went into that calculation? And how does that...
how that started? Or?
Yeah, how that started, sure.
The only relationships I've ever done has been open relationships since I was in high school. Because I didn't really understand why wouldn't you be able to do other things with other people, but then just have your main partner, basically.
So what is an open relationship, generally speaking? That means you have one main partner?
Non-monogamous relationship. You're somehow allowed, in different ways, you can see other people sexually.
Sexually, but there's one main...
or it doesn't have to be there for some people, but I think it's probably easier and we probably don't really have time or the energy for more than one person to really...
What about emotional?
It's really complicated. There's a lot of complicated stuff going on under the hood there.
Yeah.
That's the understatement of the year.
I just can't get over how her answer was, I don't understand why. And she just moves on, so why don't you investigate why? Why is it that, it is generally the norm that people like to have monogamous relationships sexually and not have you walk off and F other guys. So it's almost like there's feelings and stuff that's wrong and a betrayal. But no, okay, she doesn't investigate.
Well, yeah, but the obvious answer is she doesn't have those same feelings. When it comes to this is another one of those scenarios where I have to be better than all of these people. And it's really, really, really hard, right? Because the equivalent to these guys projecting their shit onto me would be me coming around and saying oh, why do you do monogamous relationships? Because you're an insecure who's you're threatened that your dick is smaller than every other guy's, and if your girl sees another, that would be the equivalent. But I don't say that, obviously. I think most people probably work well in monogamous relationships, 98%, 99% of people. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But why do you turn around and then try to make all these weird psychological evaluations into my shit? Like, it's not like monogamous relationships are doing too hot in the United States. What's the divorce rate? Like 60%? Like, bro, like chill, Jesus.
So basically, Callum, we're insecure Fs who are worried about our manlyhood.
That's the I love
manhood.
I love the way he did the. I'm not going to say that you're an insecure, small-dicked twat.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that. I would never call you that. That's why I'm better than you, because I would never say that you're an insecure bellend.
But I mean, you can't. Okay.
Your wife cheats on you.
Yeah. What's more to discuss? Anyway, so if there are no rules, it's not cheating, Callum.
Okay.
That's how you solve the issue.
To engage in some childish dialogue, because he began, I suppose. It is comical to be like, oh, well, your problem is your small penis because you can't keep a girl. It's like, she literally leaves you every night for other penis.
And now she's left you for good, supposedly.
But there's another issue that about the psychologizing argument is that, okay, normally I hate psychologizing because it has to do with focusing on who says something and alleged causes as to why they say it, as opposed to focusing on the argument. But when you're talking about, how people feel and how they are in relationships and whether they develop sentiments of jealousy or not, you are talking about feelings. So you kind of have to focus on feelings. Anyway, and
also, it's not psychologizing to point out something that is incredibly obvious to everybody around you, which is why you're constantly having to defend your relationship.
Yeah,
debates.
And he constantly says that I was misrepresenting him, and maybe that you were misrepresenting him a lot. And there may have been a point like that, but because honestly, I will say this: when I was presenting this segment, I didn't know much about the conversation. But the obvious question is, what do you need to know in order to understand that this is wrong? Okay, and it may backfire. It doesn't need any substantial wisdom. You don't need to have a PhD to talk about it.
I have seen a funny meme, which I think was a YouTube comment that somebody left regarding this, saying, so Destiny, what do you think caused your relationship to fail? Destiny's response, I don't know. There's not been a peer-reviewed study on it yet. That's kind of his response to a lot of things. Sorry, you've said something that's incredibly obvious to anybody with any life experience. Yeah. I won't accept that unless there's a peer-reviewed study confirming it.
Yeah, so for instance, some people are criticizing me for not discerning between polygamy and polyamory. And, okay. At the end of the day, you just don't let you don't let your partner sleep with other people. Okay, just full stop.
Have you ever watched Arrested Development?
Yeah.
You know Tobias in that case. He's the therapist who, when he's going through a rough patch with his own wife, they recommend he gets in an open relationship. And he goes, I've recommended this to people before. It's kind of a Hail Mary. It never works. And somehow these people convince themselves that it will work. And it never does. But maybe it'll work for us.
You don't need a PhD to say that, if you allow this to happen, that means that there were no feelings or there were no strong feelings. And the chances that at some point your partner will develop feelings for someone else will increase. So you don't need to have done any research or study about it.
Apparently jobless twinks.
Anyway, so there's something fishy about it. I will say there's something very fishy about it. Anyway, let's move to the next point he made. So let's see how Destiny evolves his line of thinking when it comes to his opinions on manosphere. Let us watch.
All right, cool. So what are some ideas that they represent, and what do you think about them? I think they do a good job at speaking to disaffected young men who feel like the rest of the world is kind of left them behind or isn't willing to speak to them. And they do identify some true and real problems. Feels like on the left, we have a really hard time doing like self-improvement or telling people how to better themselves. We focus too much on like structural or systemic issues rather than what can an individual do to uplift or empower themselves. And it also feels like they do a good job at speaking to some of the positive aspects of masculinity, that it's okay to be like strong and brave and a soldier and a warrior and provide for your family and blah, blah, blah. So I feel like those are like positive messages like self-improvement and everything that come from the red pill community. What's the negative? I think the analysis on how men and women interact is way too transactional. All of like the romanticism and love and chemistry is totally sucked out of it. Everything's very like sex-based. Like how do you basically have sex with the most amount of women possible, and that's going to make you happy.
So we have an advocate of polyamory accusing the manosphere of telling young men to go and find many partners.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. I was about to say like
that's not what I just said. There's nothing wrong with having a lot of sexual partners, but if the whole goal of your relationship advice is just geared towards being a boy, playing people and people. I hate this arc. I actually hate this arc. Are these guys virgins or are they at least married? Now I'm really curious. I don't like talking about the relationship because I don't know like what the background is of a lot. It's like this would be like it's like having like chess debates online, and you've got like grandmasters, and then you've got a bunch of people that are like 800 elo, like telling you like, oh, black should win 75% of the time. He's like, what the fuck are you even talking about? It's so annoying listening to people everybody give their takes on this when it's like, I need to know where you come from. I need like a relationship status, body count, like social stat. I need like this listed above your head so I know where you're coming from when you say this.
Guy who sacrifices his queen first move every game is like, you don't know how to play chess. How does he not understand our point there, which is that we don't really believe that you can have an open relationship and have the level of intimacy and feelings that you would in a monogamous one, which is why it always ends in failure and isn't the social norm. I feel like that was pretty obvious.
Well, it's obvious. Why do you need a background check, a DBS check? You know, a desk.
I want your early life before I respond to you.
Well, yes, yeah, it's because it hurt his pride to admit that he'd made a mistake. Everybody internalizes these parts of their own identities, and you don't want to admit that you've made a mistake because you look foolish. It's very easy, especially when he's gone out of his way to broadcast and debate all of this multiple times.
But what was this analogy about? About Grand Chess Master? And
he's saying that because he slept with a lot of men and women, that makes him a grand chess master. And because he's headcanoned that you two are both virgins, that means that you're complete amateurs and have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. So I will say that, I hate this because, you don't need to say that you say you're above things, but it's none of anyone's business, what our body count is and if we're virgins or not.
Like if you're going on Fresh and Fit, like that's obviously part of the show.
Yeah.
But to the question of whether or not polyamory is going to work for most people, I don't think you need anyone's early life. I think that you can probably find out.
You don't need it. No, you don't need it. And also, I think that basically this conversation of saying, my body count is higher than yours and stuff, I think that's ridiculous. Because again, it's about quantity. It's not about quality. And this is what we have tried to say from the beginning.
Did you mean the other way around? It's about quality, not quantity.
It's about quality, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
We are talking about, the kind of feelings you develop in a relationship, and there is something you could say almost magic about a good relationship. You sort of feel it. You don't need to do a PhD about it. Anyway, that's it. So what I wanted to say is that I think that the accusations he made were a bit of a cope, but it's important to not try and be very negative and try to see the good in this, because I really think that this could be good for him. And I say this and I mean this in the best possible way. It obviously, being ditched is not good, okay, on its own. But if you're being ditched by a bad person, most probably that's for good. Okay. And maybe, these are circumstances in life where, we are, in a sense, confronted with things we find painful, but maybe this is an incentive for thinking. And I want an incentive for self-mastery and growth. And I really hope Destiny has a better partner afterwards and have a meaningful life and a happy one. And one suggestion that one first step, because it usually starts with first steps. What do they say? A journey of 1,000
miles begins with the first step.
Begins with the first step. So the first step is basically a Lotus Eater subscription. You can visit their website, Symposium 48, and watch the discussion I had with Josh on Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Rings, The Samurai Way of the Sword, an excellent way of achieving self-mastery.
There's a comment section. You can get into arguments with all sorts of people down there.
Yeah, you can. So basically, and just also with £5 a month, you can gain access to all our lovely premium content. So that's the first step. And the second step is just listen to common sense. And let me just end with this, because in our segment, I also mentioned Will Smith, Chris Rock, and what Jada Pinkett Smith calls the holy slap. Now, I'm not defending the slap. Personally, I think it was a big mistake. It wasn't good, especially if we think that Chris Rock was a comedian and Will Smith had comedic background, I think in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But what I wanted to say is that what it says here is that she said that the slap sort of saved their marriage. And I want to build on that idea and say one thing, that it says here that this revealed that they were secretly separated for 7 years. And they lived completely separate lives. You can look at it here. And they were a bit exhausted with trying. And what she said, that they weren't even living together. And where is it? Made a promise that there will never be a reason for us to get a divorce. So what she says, that when she saw the slap take place, she sort of felt that they were about to do the bond, to bond again. And I want to say this because I don't think it's a coincidence that she thinks that a display of a kind of acquisitiveness. I mean, obviously you use the word acquisitiveness for possessions. Maybe it's the wrong word, but in a relationship where you're committed, you're saying you're my partner. Okay, there is a kind of.
Well, it's assertive.
It's assertive. So maybe that's the word. So I don't think it's a coincidence that you have a very famous couple who was, in a sense, practicing an open relationship. That I think that's the most famous couple who did this. And after years of, let's say, living separately, she thought that an action that, according to this polygamy perspective, is insecurity is what actually saved their marriage. And at least make her more interested in trying again.
Interesting how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. So I want to end again with a positive thing. And I hope to Destiny that you find a really good partner and live a meaningful life and a happy one.
If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that is on the site, such as the Brokenomics series, this episode on what is an economy even for. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.